I'm Jim Check, and with me, Ian Burns. Look at us. We're looking pretty snappy this morning. It is Thursday, January 22nd, almost January gone. That's crazy. And it is the year 2026, in case you're watching this way out in the future. We don't know with AI coming. Maybe watching the future in the past, or maybe watching both of the future and the past on the same day. Elon's going to talk about that later. But we got a really big show, hence the name, The Really Big Show. We do thank you. Like, share, subscribe, get this out to more people. 2026 will be the year of the independence. We're going to prove that to you today as well. We got some headlines, though. China tells Carney to hurry up. EB, as usual, points to a straw man. Globalism is dead. Do what you were elected to do. Independent media getting national attention as state-funded media continues to fail. NATO said China is a threat, as Carney avoids saying it. U.S. calls China deal out as silly. Silly buggers. Prime Minister fact-checked by the Budget Office again. Imagine that. Carney rupture speech not aging well. And Carney to address the nation. Freeland claims she was ethical. State media and government silent on court decision still. CBC called out on Iran coverage. It sounds like there's a theme going on there. Canadian military lacking. Ford says no to gun grab. Federal layoffs start. Check your mail. Anti-energy policies dying on the vine. Germans waking up to their own self-sabotage. Trump gets a deal on Greenland. President of Finland backtracks. And Trump unveils Gaza master plan as Board of Peace kicks off. Enough of the woke policies. Zelensky calls out the EU. And the left media is just lost. They're hoping for yesterday, like you said before. They're looking for the decade of the past. Japan calls election. And the globalists will fight to the bitter end as their power erodes. How's that for a bunch of stories? And in there's a ton more as well. So we bring you some of the best, the stuff that other media outlets won't talk about. And we also have some feedback. And we got some good stuff, some bad stuff. As usual, we like to share some of that feedback with you. And Ian says he really, this one is to Ian, appreciates his interpretation of the Carney speech. There you go, Ian. And there you go. So this is, somebody said it's the best show on YouTube. Thank you for that. And thank you guys. Great informative show. Great job. And some respect for me. And they called me the sausage roll legend. There you go. Who doesn't want to be the sausage roll legend? And then somebody said they listened to our podcast today. And it says it was all about criticism of Carney and learned nothing but the usual tearing down of the elected leader. And we're not helping. Well, I got news for you. Media's job is not to cheerlead. Media's job is to hold power to account. That's not the job. If you want cheerleading media, obviously switch the dial to CBC. They do a lot of cheerleading there. They do the work for the PMO's office. We don't get $1 billion. And I bet we would do it too if we got $1.5 billion. Ian and I would likely change our tune and, shill for the Liberals if they gave us $1.5 billion. Wouldn't you?
What would you like me to say, Mr. Carney? Send it over.
Send it over. Kate Harrison put this out there, and this is from after Michelle Rempel Gardner. This is kind of like in contrast to what's going on. We're just talking about that speech there. In 2026, remember Justin Trudeau was the huge star back then too, as well. He spoke at Davos, the star of Davos. He was called the anti-Trump national international analyst, heralded his communication abilities. And for the next decade, he filled the food bank lineups and killed our energy policies, or killed our energy industry. And this is what we have left here in Canada. And then now we have another speech that this time, well, some of these things got mixed up here for sure, that invoked Havel. And you just talked about that yesterday. A couple other people talked about that Havel speech as well, and saying that it was odd that he invoked Havel in his speech there.
Yeah, well, extremely ironic, but almost almost brazen. Is my sort of conclusion right now. It was a very bold thing to do. But yeah, undoubtedly ironic. I mean, other
You can put up that
than
next
from
tweet there.
CBC and the kind of you
Next.
know, the
Next.
court.
There you go.
People are saying I've got a big echo. I don't think it's from my end. I assume that's echoing in the studio. Dare I speak?
You can go ahead and see
Am I
what
going to
happens.
echo? Is it still doing it?
I don't know. I'm not hearing the echo. So
anyway, let's hope that Rommel can fix that in the background. The Desert Fox is on that. What? Maybe I'll reconnect then. If it is me, I don't know. I don't think it is me, but I'll reconnect.
Okay, you come back. There you go. And you can kind of read some of this stuff here as we wait for Ian to come back in. There he goes. He's back already. How's that?
How's that sound?
That actually sounds better to me, but I guess the people will tell us if it sounds better. Now I can hear the echo.
All right. Now you can hear it. Oh, that's not good. Desert Fox.
Is it
Where are your Panzer divisions?
So we're working on it here. We're seeing if we can figure this out here. Is it me on my end? I don't think so. I don't know. We'll see if he's going to work on it. Well, we'll keep going here. And another one here from James Thorne, too, that says, when an ex-banker borrows the language of dissent, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The globalism there. It's just tough to swallow for sure. But the main story that we wanted to talk about.
Anyway, I was going to say is the only other sort of real heavyweight praise that I've seen out there, the court reporters, and I don't mean reporters that go to a court of law. I mean at the sort of noble court, like the CTV, CBC crowd. You know, the usual sort of anything Carney does is excellent. Other than them, who you can safely ignore, they're boring and they're a good indication of what the establishment thinks, but they're not independent thinkers. But Glenn Greenwald, if anyone out there is familiar with that name, very, very, very hard left, like the real deal left wing, like not fake left wing like Justin Trudeau, but real, like proper old school left wing. He released a video, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, where he praised Mark Carney for that speech because it aligns with, as he repeatedly said, the Noam Chomsky view of international relations. And I just thought, that's quite interesting. He's got like really hard left. And Glenn Greenwald, if you don't know who he is, he's like anybody out there doesn't know who he is. He was a lawyer, but he's the guy that got in with Edward Snowden and published the all the Edward Snowden documents about the Five Eyes and all the rest of it. Considered one of the worst breaches in US intelligence in God knows how long. You know, and he did that. He did it for The Guardian because he was anti-American power, global dominance, all the rest of it. So, and he is an intellectual, Glenn Greenwald. So I just find that very, very interesting. There has been, needless to say, nothing from the right, no sort of right-wing heavyweights or conservative heavyweights with a small c have come out and praised this speech. Only people so far on the hard left, and obviously the people at court who will clap. It doesn't matter what you do, but they'll clap, so they don't really matter.
Yeah, and the speech hasn't aged well either. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. You see, there's a NATO deal there, so this, like broken world order. We'll get into that a little bit later, though. But I did want to get into the main story that we were leading with, and somehow things got mixed up here. We had a little bit of faux pas going on this morning. But China's ambassador, if you go back there. There you go. China's ambassador says, hurry up. Let's get that deal done before people start saying, that's a bad idea. China, meanwhile, it's wasting no time pressuring Canada to follow through. I seen it on Bloomberg all morning. They were running it. China says, hurry up. China says, hurry up. China says, hurry up. Because I think there's a lot of pressure now from inside Canada and pressure from outside, including NATO, that this is not a good idea. And there's some pressure. So China's saying, let's get some ink on the paper there before there's a lot of pushback on that.
Because they can't believe their luck. It's like,
Yeah.
bloody hell, these Canadians, like, how daft are they? And now they're worried. Maybe they're going to change their mind. So it's like, quickly sign the contract, buy the car.
Yeah, and it's more than that. And then, Carney obviously in that speech too avoided, and when in the questioning after, avoided saying China was the threat to the Arctic, but NATO didn't waste any time saying that. We're gonna play that for you later for Mark Ruther.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
obviously gone down like you would expect, really, hasn't it? Like a sack of bricks with the Americans. I think something that we've learned maybe from this administration is it takes them a while to really figure things out. It
Yeah.
takes them like sometimes months and months
So
to figure things out. Like the Chagos deal,
Yeah.
for example, which was manifestly, obviously stupid. One of the stupidest things that's ever happened in the history of the world. Everybody could see how dumb that was. But it took the Americans absolutely ages to figure that out. They now have figured it out. So I would suggest similar for this Chinese deal.
And the question is what's changed with China? When Mark in the leadership debate there said China is the biggest security risk to Canada. And now, 10 months later, it's not. But what's changed in China? Nothing that I know of. They haven't changed the government. They haven't changed their policies. They haven't changed anything. If anything,
did you miss that huge pro-democracy revolution that they had in China?
I did. Obviously, I did miss it. But that's what I mean. How come the reporters aren't asking that question? The ones that are granted access, how come they're not asking that question? What's changed? And then again, the conflicts of interest that Mark Carney carries by taking a loan directly from President Xi. Basically, you took the loan directly from the communist superpower dictator. I mean, how long has Xi been in power? How long has it been now? And he'll be in power, and it could be
2012,
forever.
I think, wasn't it? He succeeded Hu Jintao, who he then humiliated and purged.
But I mean,
yeah, 2012.
So what has changed for all of a sudden this complete Canadian about face on China? Nothing that I know of. And it takes the Canadian media that's granted access to Mark Carney, don't get any questions asked, but it takes Rebel News, another independent outlet, to chase officials down the street, and they can do it in Davos because it's a little lighter there than. So here's Ezra Levant here chasing Melanie Joly down the street. Let's listen in on this.
Why are you cozying up to China with their human rights abuses? China and Hamas, there's a bit of a pattern there, don't you think?
I'm sorry, are you going to trip right now?
No, I don't think so, but I'm worried that you are whitewashing China's human rights abuses just to troll Donald Trump.
Well, listen, you can explain that to your viewers. We have a different point of view. And so we're doing it for us, for Canada.
Well, your Prime Minister said that China was the #1 security threat, and now he's making a partnership with them.
I think the biggest security threat to Canada is China.
So you heard what the Prime Minister had to say.
What do you have to say about this?
Thank you.
Listen, guys, come
Thank
on.
you.
We're just trying to do a job here. Thanks.
And I'm trying to do my job as well.
That's great.
Run away. Bravely run away. Bravely run away.
But where's the Canadian
It's
media?
so horrible to see that, isn't it? That's just so repulsive. That is a disgusting sight to see in a country that considers itself a democracy. Allow me, for what will probably be the first of a million times in my life, allow me to borrow the language of Mark Carney in saying, we don't have to believe this lie anymore. We don't have to believe this fiction that she is a servant and we are the masters. Because that, to me, looks a lot like a medieval noblewoman walking down the street and trying to shoo away the peasants who dare ask questions.
There is no free and independent media in Canada that has access to the Liberal government. They are doing everything they can to shut out the media. And kudos to Rebel News there. I mean, even a lot of the outlets, even ourselves, kind of turned our noses up to Rebel in the past. But I mean, he's doing work now that the legacy media that gets paid by the government is not willing to do. Like he's paid his way to get to Davos. He's gone there and he's hounded down. We're going to have Friedland later in this. And he's getting picked up by other outlets. Where
Well,
is
he spoke. He's the first person in the media to speak to Chrystia Freeland about the glaring, obvious breach in not just ethics but morality. You know, this horrendous, shocking incident in Canadian affairs. He is the first person to put a microphone under her chin and ask her what that was about. Her going to work for Ukraine.
this is a huge
That should tell you
Yeah.
everything. If you just, it doesn't really matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're like the biggest liberal fan in the world and you think everyone else is a Nazi that disagrees with you. Just think about that. Chrystia Freeland hasn't even had to explain herself yet until Ezra Levant, who's like he's almost like a sort of clown figure. He's like a court jester figure who just has the balls to go out and do these crazy things. It took him to get her to say something about it. You've got to look at that and think, dear me, like there is something seriously wrong with Canada if that's the case.
There's something in the media, the CBC, the state broadcaster, is in an absolute embarrassment. We're going to show you more of their embarrassment later as well. $1.5 billion, and they have yet to ask that question. $1.5 billion, they have yet to ask the question of Mark Carney was in China there, took a loan from President Xi himself. No questions asked. Instead, they're ramping up fear and rhetoric about an invasion of Canada. Just absolutely embarrassing. And then it takes an independent there to go there and do the work that the CBC, who's there on our dime, not asking the questions. Absolutely atrocious. And that tells you everything you need to know how the Liberals have weakened media here in Canada. They did it with Bill C-18. They took half our revenue. They took away our audience of 200,000. Well, I mean, this is why we did this. Out of this is born Rebel News. Out of this is born us. And we need a bigger voice. Help us like, share, subscribe, get this out to more people. We need to start asking questions. We need to demand answers. How many emails we send to Mark Miller? How many phone calls that go unanswered? It's just absolutely atrocious. We need to demand more. We need to demand better. They are the servants of the people. They are not the elites. And globalism is gonna have a tough time. And Mark Carney was a foundation member of the WEF, the globalist organization. So definitely that is his home there. That is his stomping ground. But they if you watch Trump walk around, he'll take questions from anybody, everybody. And then if you watch the Liberals, they basically, you see the bodyguard there pushing back on Jolie there too, eh?
Well, yeah, and it's always that sort of physical intimidation aspect to it. That's kind of what I was saying earlier when I was saying how ugly it was to see that. But it's the contempt. I mean, and you say we send emails and we've done it so many times in the past. I mean, it's hard. You sort of get demoralized. You stop doing it after a certain point. But we need to kind of like give ourselves a slap on the head and go again. Just keep doing it. Just, as Mark Carney said, we have to keep going through with the rituals of pretending that Canada is a free and open society and a proper, healthy democracy. We have to pretend that that's true, I feel like that. To speak for myself, you have to keep doing it because the alternative is too dark. It's too bleak. It's just an abyss of gloom and horror. And I don't really want to get rid of the lie. I don't want to take the sign down as Mark Carney does. But yeah, so that's from our perspective. But I just wanted to say that's obviously what happens to every other media outlet as well. Because Mark Carney and the big Liberals never give interviews. You never see them interviewed. Never. I mean, Global got to do a nice little sort of PR piece.
They were handed the script. The questions they were allowed to ask. It was brutal.
And that's a private company. I mean, not a very healthy one, but okay. And then CBC obviously got an interview with them, which I don't think we can even consider that journalism or news. That's not media. That was promotional material on behalf of the Liberal Party. So that's one interview. I mean, he's spoken to a couple of very sort of internationalist adjacent, sort of globalist outlets such as Bloomberg and The Economist. Like he's talked to them over in Britain, but he doesn't really speak, nor do the big Liberals speak. There's never been a sit-down interview about the Online News Act, for example, which isn't just some obscure thing that we obsess about because we're freaks. This is something that is one of 3 things that the Americans said that they want fixed if they're going to have a deal. That's how big of a deal that is. There's never been an interview about the Online News Act. I mean, what is this country? What is this system? What system do you think you're living in? Do you think this is a democracy? I've said that so many times on here. Do you think this is a democracy? I feel like Morpheus in the Matrix. It's like, do you think this is a democracy you're living in now, Neo? But let's pretend anyway. Let's put the sign back. Let's do the rituals. Let's pretend that we're in a democracy, because otherwise my head's going to explode.
I just remind people that Stephen Guilbeault, when questioned in Parliament about the Online News Act, said it was immoral to even ask the question. Immoral to ask the question. Unbelievable. We need a free and independent media. Once we change this government out, we need to push for never allow funding of media again in Canada. They have crippled and corrupted the media, and the CBC needs to be defunded completely.
Somebody having a go at me for my characterization of Glenn Greenwald. I said he was anti-American. I mean, he is, isn't he? Come on. Just like Noam Chomsky's anti-American. I can't be bothered to have these arguments. I know things have flipped and changed, and like people like Tucker Carlson, who call themselves right-wing, have now decided that it's great to leak state secrets, and it's great to damn the American empire and all this kind of thing. Okay, but Glenn Greenwald fundamentally is motivated by a desire to weaken America, and they want to live in a multilateral world where America's no longer the hegemon and all the rest of it. Like, okay, I mean, say what you want. It's quite an obscure thing to get into, but
yeah, we don't want to get
whatever.
into that now. Mark Reuter here says the Arctic needs to be protected. He had a sit-down meeting with President Trump. They say they have a deal, and he definitely talks about China being a threat in the Arctic. Let's listen in here.
There are these tensions at the moment, there's no doubt. Again, I'm not going to comment on that, but I can assure you the only way to deal with that is, in the end, thoughtful diplomacy. So statements from me will not add anything here. And when it comes to the Arctic, I think President Trump is right, other leaders in NATO are right. We need to defend the Arctic. We know that these sea lanes are opening up. We know that China and Russia are increasingly active in the Arctic. There are 8 countries bordering on the Arctic. 7 are a member of NATO. That's Finland and Sweden and Norway and Denmark, Iceland, Canada and the US. And there's only 1 country bordering on the Arctic outside NATO, and that's Russia. And I would argue there is a 9th country, which is China, which is increasingly active in the Arctic region. So President Trump and other leaders are right. We have to do more there. We have to protect the Arctic against Russian and Chinese influence. And that's exactly what NATO ambassadors decided to do in September. We are working on that, making sure that collectively will we defend the Arctic region.
Mark Carney's speech did not age well, because he was asked about China and Russia. And he's couched that by just saying it's Russia. And we're part of NATO. So is one part of NATO going to let China in the back door actually go right around Greenland and just end up setting up bases right here in Canada?
Why not? Yeah, why not? Why not give them access? By the way, we've missed, we keep talking about the Carney speech, don't we? We seem to have missed that tweet there from Dr. Andrea Wagner, whatever her name is, which is a point that I immediately made. I don't think I made it on here, but sort of talking to somebody else about how crazy it is that Mark Carney has come out talking about the lie that we all live and the rituals we all perform and the fiction that we all embrace and then she goes on to list, you know, gender extremism, gender madness and freedom of speech and, you know, the condemnation of white people and this white-black binary and all the rest of it. That is primarily his speech, you could say, one could argue, if you interpret it through the lens of the culture wars. It's like a critique of the extremist progressives. Is it not? Who say things like they will believe the lie on so many different subjects. I just think that's a really interesting point. I mean, it's almost secondary now because we're talking about geopolitics rather than domestic affairs and culture wars and things like that. But, you know, it's a very strong point from Dr. Andrea there.
And you put this in. Here's Howard Lutnick and his reaction to Carney's China deal.
The UK can do the same thing. And Canada is just thinking in this arrogant kind of thought.
Well, but just to build on what John is talking about, it's a style question. Can you get the same results without using words like calling leaders weak or their economies decaying, right? Is it necessary to provoke the visceral feeling that we feel among a lot of leaders here and in conversations with international investors. I mean, is there any other way? Is that style more harmful than it is helpful?
Well, I think it creates listening. Like people pay attention to it and listen to it. If you just sort of blend in, no one hears anything in Davos, right? Everybody says the same blah, 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 blah. And if you need to break out and you need to say it. So my view is, right, that Canada has never expressed to the world that they have the best deal, the second best deal in the world. The best deal in the world is Mexico, because remember, they have USMCA, which means 85% of the Canadian economy comes into the United States for zero. And there he is complaining that he's going to go to China and improve it. What's he going to do? China's delighted to sell to him, but do you think China's going to open their economy to accept exports from Canada? This is the silliest thing I've ever seen. They have the second best deal because Mexico's got a little better deal. They have 25% on the extra 15%, whereas Canada's got 35% on the extra 15%. But give me a break. They have the second best deal in the world. And all I got to do is listen to this guy whine and complain?
Mr. Secretary, in fairness, you've seen from the airplanes, you've seen about a 30% decline in Canadian visitors to the United States, if not significantly more. You've seen a similar type of decline from China. European travelers inbound have come down. There is a sense that people do not want to come to the culture of the U.S., and there is this anger about it. And I just wonder if you think that that's just temporary.
It was good, though.
Or you just
it's
sort of
quite a long one, but I would
miss that, or you think it's
I would recommend having a watch of that. It's Bloomberg for anybody that's interested. But he goes on to say, probably the main thing there, I haven't seen this reported anywhere, by the way, not in the Canadian media, outside of Bloomberg, obviously. But he goes on to say, the most important thing, I think, he goes on to say, you know, quite obviously, we aren't going to give the Canadians as good a deal in the CUSMA agreement if they're in bed with the Chinese, obviously. I mean, a no-brainer, really, but to have somebody from the US administration, one of Trump's most trusted servants there, to have it out of his mouth confirms it, I suppose.
Yeah, you know, you knew this wasn't going to go well. And maybe, you know, like maybe Carney's doing it to get better leverage. I mean, maybe. Because if you see,
yeah, there's a definite idea that's my instinct. And I felt that way. I felt that everything that he's done so far, Carney, and I've said this a few times, everything is about America ultimately, and it's just a very elaborate presentation really that's been put on to get this deal signed, which in itself is quite scary. That tells you that this is how much garbage we have to endure just to get a signature on a trade deal with the Americans. It's like, it tells you just how strained the relationship is. Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, all of this, the world order's ended. We're going to go be friends with China and all the rest of it. Like Mark Carney and the Liberals, the Canadian establishment, the Canadian ruling class, whatever you want to call them, they can say anything that they want, really. But when it comes down to it, if the Americans start to turn away in a serious way, Canada would do anything to get them back and would drop anything, because to do otherwise would be to seriously harm Canada and Canadians for many, many decades to come.
I can tell you right now, if we had a free and independent media and media had access to Carney and the Liberals, we would not be where we are. I guarantee that, because they would have to answer to their things. Here's Kate Harrison that goes on CBC here, and she says the Canadians elected Carney to negotiate a win from Trump. That hasn't happened. Instead, we get speeches cozying up to dictators. And I knew that his speech was going to be kind of like weird when he went to his kind of like his globalist home there. That's because Mark Carney called himself a globalist. Remember, there's when he was running for the leadership, he basically called himself a globalist. And then the other day he said, you know, the G word, because now he's trying to like, you know, hide from that word. I mean, he hasn't lived in Canada for a decade. Globalism is his thing, and he's a finance guy. And finance and globalism go together. Go read Stephen Harper's book. You got to read that book, and it explains everything in there. Everywhere.
Many people say that they're synonymous. They're the same thing. That the financial world invented it. Yeah. You know, like the idea of getting marginal gains by moving a factory out of Detroit to Shanghai or whatever. Like it kind of all ultimately boils down to that, doesn't it? It boils down to the Mark Carneys of this world signing a document that says we could make 0.24% extra per annum if we destroy this town in Ohio and instead move over to the Philippines or something like that. Like, come on.
And I did a post on LinkedIn, I think around November, just after Trump won the election. And it was a picture of a dragon that was, like talking to a man. And in that, I said the globalists, I mean, Trump is going to break globalism. That's what he said he was going to do, and that's what he's doing. But the dragon is going to fight back, and the dragon is going to fight back. We're seeing it fight back for the money. We're seeing the left media that kind of like lives off that money. I mean, they're fighting back wherever they can because they're losing it. Climate extremism is dying. All this stuff is dying. And I mean, there's a lot of leaders, world leaders at Davos this time that said they're done with, a few elites in a room like Klaus Schwab. So we played it yesterday at the beginning of the show. Klaus Schwab saying it's the people in this room that make the decisions for the people of the world. It's like, who elected Klaus Schwab to deal for us?
Yeah.
And that's
nobody.
And then here's Terry Newman, who writes for the National Post, and she's retweeting Norman Spector there. Frustrations with one American president need not give away agenda of dictators, right? There's a universal agreement with NATO that the Arctic must be protected from China and Russia. I mean, Carney downplaying the threat of China is dangerous in itself to NATO. Just dangerous in itself to how NATO operates. China claims part of the Arctic. I mean, that in itself should set off warning bells because China is not a border nation to the Arctic. So what claim do they have on the Arctic? China is not friendly. Like, again, what's changed, Mark Carney? What's changed since you said that it's the biggest threat to Canada? What has changed with China? I can't think of a single thing. Have they stopped their rhetoric with Taiwan? Have they said to Taiwan, oh yeah, you go ahead and you have your democracy. We fully support that. Have they been flying planes over Japan there and threatening Japan recently? Yep, they've been doing that. Have they been threatening Taiwan? Yep, they've been doing that. Have they been...
and claiming the South China Sea and the East China Sea as their possession.
And now why don't we ask how the Christians are doing in China? Like all these things, nothing has changed with China other than Mark Carney needs some kind of win. And it wouldn't even... You could just say maybe he made him, like he got a deal, he needed a deal, but it's the conflict there, the $300 million that he took a loan from the Bank of China. That's not looking good. And Brookfield has billions of dollars of assets in China. They're at risk in China. That conflict should be like the number one question. And Carney should be divesting himself of all Brookfield assets when he's going around the world making deals. And he went to Qatar, same thing, Brookfield's there. Giving money to the European Space Agency, Brookfield. These are the questions that Ezra would ask, we would ask, let us in the room. They don't let us in the room. And CBC not doing the work that they should be doing.
Oh, of course not. But just a brief interruption here to say I'm feeling very proud here. And I think we finally made it. This is a big moment for us. We have somebody in the comments called Andy_Kick, who appears to be an apologist for the Chinese Communist Party. We've seriously hit the big time now. If we've got somebody in the comments saying Taiwan is Chinese and talking about Japan in the Second World War, these are talking points of the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, that's worth a sausage roll. Sausage rolls all around.
Sausage rolls all around. Everybody gets a sausage roll. We've hit the big top. We have the most people we've ever had on a live stream, though. So there's sausage rolls. There you go. There's the Sausage Roll Award. And with the Canadian media sells its soul for sausage rolls. And again, a big thank you to the person that sent us those sausage rolls.
I've not seen a CCP apologist in here. Honestly, I wasn't sure we were ever going to get there. I didn't think we would ever be consequential enough for the boys in Beijing to come in and Japan and fascism and Japan. Cool.
We have a clip here from, we have a Liberal Party ad here. We'll play that as long as it's got no music on it here.
And that is why I've made it clear my ministers in my government will be banned from participating in the World Economic Forum when I'm in government. Yeah.
We're engaging broadly, strategically with open eyes. We actively take on the world as it is, not wait around for a world we wish to be. We are calibrating our relationships so their depth reflects our values. And we're prioritizing broad engagement to maximize our influence, given the fluidity of the world at the moment, the risks that this poses, and the stakes for what comes next.
And that is why I've made it clear.
We just need to put Klaus Schwab in there. I have penetrated the Liberal cabinet.
Divisive theatrics. See, let's just let's settle down for a little second and think of how could we describe Mark Carney's very provocative speech in Davos earlier this week. Could you say it was divisive theatrics? I think a real critic of that speech might say exactly that, but obviously, no, that's just Pierre Poilievre. Only Pierre Poilievre could be guilty of that. This is the thing. It's because Mark Carney is so clean cut, isn't he? He's like such a establishment paragon that he can do and say almost anything, no matter how ridiculous, no matter how stupid, no matter how divisive and theatrical, and purely because of his style, purely because of what he looks like and how he speaks and his resume, he gets away with it. Whereas Pierre Poilievre, because he's a bit rowdy, his style is a bit more boisterous, and he doesn't have a very impressive CV in comparison to Mr. Carney there. He's just immediately knocked down as this crank and populist. I mean, something to think about maybe for anyone that's on the fence out there, any CBC watchers.
Well, the budget office fact checks the Prime Minister once again. Prime Minister Mark Carney's claim of fast-tracking $1 trillion of investment is grossly inflated and drawn mainly from renouncements of old spending, according to the budget office. That was from yesterday. Carney repeated the claim Tuesday in his speech at the annual meeting of the WEF. Look, we got fact-checked. The media didn't fact-check him. How come they're so quick to fact-check Donald Trump? And they don't fact-check Mark Carney, right? 85% of the investment activity relates to pre-budget spending. That's from the analysts. Actual investment was projected to be a fraction of $1 trillion, about $126 billion. And that's from the budget 2025 federal spending. Carney, in his November 4th budget, Canada Strong claimed targeted federal initiatives would generate $1 trillion in new investment by 2030. What this budget shows is that with $1 trillion of investment, we're going to catalyze, we're going to put more than $3,000 in the pocket of every Canadian by the end of this decade. Yeah, again, fact check.
We need a dinger or something when one of the words is used. So just when you read it out, it should just pop up.
The figure was not, and the analyst said the figure was not grounded in any data. Of the $285 billion in federal spending to support the $1 trillion total investment, only $41 billion represents the new measures introduced in the budget, while $243 billion is associated with planned spending that was already in place prior to the budget. Finance Canada estimates $41 billion in new measures introduced in the budget could support a total investment of $165 billion. Yeah, so importantly, the estimated $1 trillion in total investment activity over 2026 to 2020 or 2030 does not represent the incremental economic impact of federal spending in support of third parties, wrote the analyst. Our analysis does not assess whether these investments would proceed in the absence of federal support. Fact-checked by the PBO. I mean, again, Jason Jacks, I mean, did you get that job yet? Are they going to let you stay there?
Yeah. If he had anything to do with this, then no. But it is remarkable, isn't it, that it's like some obscure little announcement from the PBO, which is picked up by a very important, but we have to say quite obscure media outlet, Blacklock's. And then we've talked about it again. Sorry to say, despite the CCP apologist, still quite obscure. Like that is, and that's it really. And this is just completely trashing one of the main
his talking points.
Claims. Yeah, one of his main we're great claims.
I just cruised the CBC website. Not there. Missing.
Never will be.
Never will.
If you somehow got onto the CBC on one of their panel shows and you mentioned it, prepare to get a sledgehammer to the skull.
Yeah, for sure. And Kate Harrison,
of course.
We got a little more, another clip on Kate Harrison here. Let's play her. She's on CBC. She's their token conservative.
stock market sell-off, the threats of the
Definitely.
The trade bazooka, as the Europeans call it, and all of these things. But, you know, I don't know how NATO survives 3 more years of this president with the way it has gone in the first year.
Yeah, I think that there has always been a question around the survivability of NATO, even if you go back to Trump term number 1, right, calling in everybody's delinquent tabs, and it seems to be in a more precarious position than before. But at the same time, we are in, I think, a better place today than we were yesterday or the day before in terms of, you know, the perspective of a military occupation of Greenland. And now it seems at least there's a path forward, one that NATO is a part of, and one that, you know, to use Jordan's word, looks like a de-escalation or a climb down or a shift. I think it's markets, not Mark Carney, that probably resulted in that adjustment being made. But I do think, you know, to pull on something Amanda said, I wonder how Canada's response to this might have looked tomorrow or later today if Trump had spoken first. And I think that, you know, the message that we got from the Prime Minister yesterday looks a little bit strange compared to the situation we have now. I think the rupture that he's talking about looks more like a ripple. And when he is talking about,
really?
Absolutely do. I absolutely do. I think that.
Before David Cochrane gets on full-on defense mode there.
Yeah, it's like, what? You're trying to undermine the Liberal Party's entire campaign here? Like, shut up. Cut it out.
David Cochrane, I mean, he's even making Rosemary Barton look like a journalist. Like, he is so bad. I'm going to show you some clips from him a little bit later, too. It's like, he has definitely gone all in. They must he must have 3 buckets of sausage rolls underneath his desk.
Yeah, he's not showing it though, is he? He must be going to the gym to try and burn off the sausage roll calories. But I mean, to be fair, I mean, I do have some sort of sympathy with, like, not sympathy with his opinion, but rather sympathy with his journalistic instincts. That is a question. Like, you know, you should hold your guest to account and say, oh, do you really think that? Because, you know, lots of other people have, you know, agree with Mark Carney, and then there's this. Like, that makes sense, but it's just the way, the purely emotional response, which is like, oh, you think so? Like, you know,
and he also bookended
it.
Don't forget, he bookended it too. He started with, you know, how does NATO survive? You know what I mean, with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And then he bookended it at the end.
And also another thing, sorry, just one last thing from a journalistic perspective here. Can you imagine him ever interrupting somebody that was making the opposite point? Somebody that was regurgitating what Carney said, saying the world's going to end, America's going to invade, blah, blah, blah. Can you imagine him going, oh, what do you mean? What do you mean America's going to, like, I don't think so. Again, it's these you get these little glimpses, don't you, from time to time. With Cochrane, obviously, it's like very transparent. He's not very good at hiding it. But you get these opportunities now and then to see where someone's biases lie.
And here's Sebastian. He used to be the communications person for Pierre Poilievre, and he had something to say as well. Let's listen in on he's on there with Vasi Kapelis on Power Play.
Carney talked about the, quote, gap between rhetoric and reality. And there really is no person in this country better suited to know about that than Mark Carney himself. We had heard now for over a year Mark Carney talk about these incredible things: drill, baby, drill, build at unimaginable speeds. That was wonderful rhetoric. The reality, however, is greatly lacking for Canadians. And so when Prime Minister Carney goes in front of an incredibly tough audience in Davos of financiers, bankers, and other globalist types that give him standing ovations, when he goes to that audience, it's easy to say those things. In reality, though, there has been very little in the way of delivery. We're still as dependent on the U.S. as our market as we were a year ago when Prime Minister Carney took office. No major project has actually been built. There's nothing has come online to diversify that trade. So I think Canadians are struggling when they hear this half-hour speech to identify what it means for them in their own lives. They can't put a roof over their head because of Mark Carney's cheap talk. They can't put food on their table because of his wonderful words. And so there's that very big gap that Mark Carney himself will have to bridge when it comes to tackling those domestic issues.
That's good.
It's good to see old Seb. Seb is a fan of the show. Regurgitating lines that we've We've been talking about that. Well, to be fair, it's not exactly unique to us, is it? But we have been talking about that for a very long time, and it does grow ever more tiresome as each day passes, doesn't it?
We do have another ad here. Turn the music off on this one here. Mark Carney laying out the ad. This is, again, can you put food on the table with this? This is, if it was about photo ops, we'd be killing it and signing guest books. But here he goes. There's Melanie Jolie and Mark Carney, and lots of photo ops, lots of meetings, lots of traveling, but not a lot getting done. But they did put out a press release there. You can go to, they're going to meet. There's a cabinet planning forum in Quebec City from January 22nd. That's today and tomorrow. And he is going to address the nation here right away. Is it today or tomorrow he's going to address the nation? He's going to address the nation tomorrow, I believe. Or is it today he's going to address the nation?
I think it's today, actually. I think it's in about 15 minutes.
There you go.
If I'm not wrong.
And they're going to work on those 7 priorities that they have, establishing new economic, this is all things that don't make a lot of sense. Economic security relationship with the United States. They haven't done much with that. Building one Canadian economy. We've got all the provinces fighting with each other, so that's not happening. Bringing down the cost for Canadians and helping get ahead. We've had the highest inflation in G7 for food. Not happening. Making housing more affordable by unleashing the power of the public-private corporations. So they haven't even done the GST thing. I talked to Renee yesterday on Beyond the Ballot. That's still not received royal assent. They removed the GST on the first-time home buyers. And the PBO's office also called them out on that and said instead of an additional 250,000 homes a year, they're going to build 2,600 homes in 5 years. Number 5, protecting Canadian sovereignty and keeping Canadians safe by strengthening Canadian armed forces. Nothing happened there. We're actually inviting China in to run police security here. That doesn't sound good. Attracting the best talent in the world to help our economy. We can't even attract Mark Carney's own capital here. Like he's took Brookfield to the U.S. and has all his investments in the U.S. These are questions as a reporter you should be asking when you read these. Spending less on government operations so the Canadians can invest more. All I've seen so far is more money going out the door. Another $2.5 billion given to Ukraine. Canada's now contributed more per capita, and that's right out of Nina and Ann's own mouth. Canada's contributed more per capita than any other nation. That's even more than European Union that is more affected than us. I remember we've got an ocean between us. And Canada, for some strange reason, has contributed more than any other nation per capita. That's a question that needs to be answered.
We do here in Canada obviously have quite a large Ukrainian origin, population of Ukrainian origin, don't we? And that was used early on. That was used as a justification. And I kind of understand that. But we also have like a very large population of Indian origin and also Chinese origin.
And we have a
Does that mean that we should get involved in their business as well? It's it's a tricky one to explain. But I was just going to say, you talk about Europe, like Germany and Poland, these countries, they've got millions of Ukrainians there now, like not just of Ukrainian origin, but Ukrainian born and raised passport holders. And they're not really doing enough, one might say.
And they're a higher risk than us. And also, one of the things that we do have a lot of is record food bank usage. We can spend a lot of that money here at home for some, instead of like giving it away. Like we shouldn't be the highest per capita. Like that doesn't make any sense in the world. And now we have Chrystia Freeland, we're going to hear from her later, there with that bag of cash administering, and she says that it's an unpaid job. I don't know who believes that, but some of the promises that they made. I mean, they're gonna have this meeting. Carney's his promises: deal by July 1 with the Americans. He's the guy. Elect him. He's the guy. He's the only guy that can deal with Donald Trump. It seems like when Donald Trump called them out yesterday, even Renee recognized that when he called them Mark, that was a term of disrespect and just that was a shot right there, right? Food inflation, Canada leads the G7 in food inflation. Defense spending, they even said that, that was from Holly and Rome Blacklocks there earlier, that they said they were going to increase that spending. Hasn't happened yet. Nation building projects, they talked about 12 projects, none of them really doing anything. And a lot of them that they talked about are those 7 and 5 were things that were already going on. Cut taxes for middle class. Turns out that number is a lot lower than what they said, the $800. Turns out it's about $11 for the lower end of the tax bracket and about $200 for the middle income. And CPP is going up. It's going to be an additional $250. So you're actually, your net negative on that. And then the alcohol tax goes up in April 1 as well. Counter tariffs, they removed them. Remember, they talked tough on counter tariffs. Bail reform. They have other priorities like the Online Streaming Act, online news. None of those things. Pan-Canadian licensing. We're going to have one license like for these trades and for medical across. None of that. Listen to this one. This one's in the budget. You pulled this out yesterday. Phase out fossil fuels in federal buildings by 2030. Again, that's not far away. And then the auditor went to 14 different military housing units. 7 of them don't even meet standards for living in, don't have clean drinking water, toilets that don't work, and walls that are deteriorating. And we're going to phase out fossil fuels. That's the priority. We can't even paint the walls and make toilets work and have safe drinking water. Getting projects done faster and better. They haven't removed any of the nation building blocking bills. None. Unlocking projects. What is done, though? You ready for this, David Cochran? Because it's for you. CBC funding. Check. That's done. $150 million. What's the first thing they did with that? They gave the CBC executives a big fat raise, like, job well done, boys. And then we did get that coupon. So if you're traveling with your child, as long as you pay, your child can ride or go and get into the museum for free. That's what you got. You got a coupon, and CBC got more money to tell you the good news. Like, go to the CBC website anytime, and you're going to see the nonsense on there, and you're going to see the stuff. And go try to find the stories that we're talking about. Try to find them on there. And thank you to Angel,
our guardian angel.
There you go. I love the channel. We appreciate you as well, Angel. That's what we got. And the dairy farmers of Canada, look, they learned from the Liberals here. The dairy farmers of Canada hold their annual policy conference in February. Media access was traditionally allowed. Last year was attendance only. But now this year, no media, because they don't want to answer questions about how the dairy cartel there or the dairy lobby or the supply management is bad for the consumer and it's actually holding back a trade deal with the Americans. They don't want to answer those questions. So what they do is what the Liberals do. Shut the media out. So Ezra, do we have to rely on Ezra Levant to go there? Because like, how else do we get any answers? Because CBC surely won't do it.
But there's just, we often say this, don't we? CBC doesn't do it. None of the Canadian media really, except for a few independents, bother to do the job of the media in any way, which is to hold power to account, as we've said. They don't even try. However, usually, for all the criticisms that you might have of the Conservative Party, and I know people have many and various, they are in opposition, and they have, over the recent years, done a pretty good job of being in opposition. And I think particularly under the leadership of Pierre Poilievre, though he's kind of disappeared a bit lately. But often, something will happen, the media will just completely abdicate responsibility, and it'll be down to Pierre Poilievre and a few Conservative shadow ministers to come out and be the only opposition, and then probably be ignored or defamed by the media anyway. However, when it comes to this particular question, which happens to be of enormous importance, this is beyond just the price of milk, obviously, though that in itself is an issue. We're talking about food banks, talking about people being hungry. It might help to have cheaper annual grocery costs by something like, I don't know, it's several $100s a year, according to the most recent studies. If you abolish supply management, that's how much cheaper groceries would be for the average family. But it's not just that. It's also, as you said, it's trade deals with the United States. It's proper trade deals with Europe, Britain. The Kiwis, the New Zealanders absolutely despise it. They hate it so much. They took Canada to a tribunal about it, didn't they? And I believe they won, actually. This is like a mega issue. And that's before you even talk about the implications for like the health of our democracy and all that kind of thing, the health of the political scene in Canada. And yet, to finally get to my point, not a peep from the Conservative Party, not even a whisper about this.
And we do like to communicate with people in the comments, and Tim's saying that we owe Rebel a big hand, and we said that what Rebel did there and what they're doing in Davos is absolutely incredible. I mean, that they're doing the work that nobody else is being able to do right now. A big kudos to Rebel. And we just said in the beginning when Rebel first started out that they were, they had some tactics there that a lot of outlets maybe didn't look at. I mean, even what they got done at the leadership debate there, it was stuff that nobody else was willing to do. And they actually got them to shut down the second day. It was shut down because of Rebel. And so we're not slagging on Rebel.
It was either Rebel or it was a Rebel.
It was, I think Keenan was a former Rebel guy. I think he was on his own.
Yeah. So there's Rebel and then there's kind of, downstream of Rebel. Let's put it that way. But they probably would hate to be described that way, but it's kind of fair to do that. But it was one of them that asked that question of Mark Carney, what is a woman? Which was immediately condemned as like, oh my God, almost like farting at the dinner party, wasn't it? And yet, quite an important question for lots of reasons, including constitutional reasons, like to do with the law, legal reasons, never mind culture wars and things like that. A very important question. I remember that's so vividly sort of imprinted on my mind that it took one of these sort of alternative media people to actually get that question to Mark Carney, a question that had been asked of British prime ministers, British political leaders years previously, and obviously in the United States as well and in Europe.
Now, Keenan's now with Juno News, but I mean, it is the year, I've been saying this for a while, it is the year for independence. And thank you to those guys that broke a lot of ground, and it made us come out of our shell too, because we weren't doing this before as well. We were happy to be local, an independent outlet, but now we realize that we need to raise our voice here for Canada, because there is no news show that's going on in Canada that does what we're doing right now. And kudos to the people like Juno News, True North, and all these independents, and Nick Shirley in the United States. I mean, in the United States, they got tons of independents that have been doing stuff like this. And you could even say Joe Rogan fits in there. Joe Rogan has a bunch of stuff that breaks news that the mainstream media won't do. And they worry about it.
And you've got a left. You also have it on the left as well as the right in America, like the aforementioned Glenn Greenwald. He does like sort of lots of shows like this and interviews people. So it's a much more healthy media landscape in America, isn't it? Whereas here it's so denuded, isn't it? It's so degraded in this country.
You want independent voices. You want a ton of diversity. I mean, that was the reason Conrad Black ended up in jail, because he bought up all the newspapers. Remember that? He bought up all the newspapers, had one voice, and he ended up... but here in Canada, what we have is a bunch of... The Online News Act crippled the media. Close to 100 outlets have failed since they put it together, and a lot of those have been the independents that failed first. And then they basically hand out money to the ones they select. And then the CBC just gets to feast at the trough of the taxpayer. It's not a healthy media. And here's the biggest kudos to Ezra Levant and Rebel News. This is probably the biggest story so far of the year. He got an interview with Chrystia Freeland, one of the biggest stories on her ethics here. And here's the finance minister, transport minister, and then accepted a job with another country. And then Mark Carney, again, another faux pas here. But let's play the clip there. Do we have the clip there? I thought we had the clip there. We're going to look for it here. But we had that clip there where he chased her down the street. This is Holly Dones did this story, though. You can go look on Rebel and see if you can find that clip. She said she behaved ethically at every moment, accepting that job as an advisor to Ukraine's president while acting as parliamentary secretary overseeing Canada's post-war aid to the country. And Holly Dones picked it up. Freeland spoke to Rebel News in her first public comments. That's the first public comments. Like that should... CBC has access to these people all the time. Do you have it? Let's play the clip here and then we'll talk.
Not only that, mate, I would say... And this is to just bear this in mind when you watch this, when you watch what she says. What she says here sounds very strangely, eerily similar to what CTV and CBC and all the rest of them reported as from a high-level source or something like that. Sounds suspiciously similar, which makes me think maybe that was Chrystia Freeland on the blower to CBC saying, no, it's unpaid. Questions. It's unpaid, and it's because I love Ukraine, but no interview.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's play this clip here.
Ms. Freeland, why didn't you disclose your job offer from Ukraine to the Conflict of Ethics Commissioner within 7 days as required.
Hi, nice to see you.
Like what?
I disclosed it to the Ethics Commissioner immediately.
Are you sure about that? Because you didn't tell the Prime Minister for 2 days.
I told the Prime Minister as soon as I spoke to him, as soon as I could speak to him.
Why did you keep it secret from the public, though, until the President of Ukraine tweeted it out?
It wasn't finalized.
Are you sure it wasn't because you guys were shipping $2.5 billion out and it would be odd to have you on both sides of the deal?
That was a decision of the Prime Minister. And let me just say, I think Canada should be proud to support Ukraine. And
But I don't think that's the question. You were on both sides of the deal was the question.
I wasn't on both sides of the deal. I actually wasn't at that meeting with the Prime Minister. But in any event, let me be very clear. Ukraine is fighting for Canada's security and for Canada's democracy.
But that doesn't, no one's disagreeing with that. In our conversation.
Let me finish, please.
Okay,
I answered your questions very clearly.
Go ahead.
Ukraine is fighting for Canada. Ukraine is fighting for democracy in Ukraine and in the world. We benefit from supporting Ukraine. I'm proud of the support that Canada has given, and I've been very, very proud.
But you have to be, you have to follow the law.
No, hang on.
You have to follow the law.
Oh, I followed the law 100%. I followed the law 100%. And let me just be clear. Your questions are about casting doubt on support for Ukraine.
No, it's about casting doubt on your ethics.
No, your questions are about casting doubt on support for Ukraine.
You're trying to misdirect. You're trying to misdirect.
No. I am telling.
How can you be on both sides of the deal?
You should be ashamed of yourselves.
I'm not ashamed. I'm ashamed of your misconduct.
His job for him. I have behaved ethically at every moment, and I'm very proud.
You were Canada's special honor.
You can go Rebel and you can follow them on X, and you can watch that full clip there from Ezra. Again, the CBC has access to her all the time, all the time. This is questions that should have been asked right away. Even Mark Carney hasn't had to answer for this yet. They don't even ask him on these questions. Why wasn't she fired immediately? Why wasn't she fired immediately? Why did you give the $2.5 billion? The parties discussed Canada's participating in the Ukraine's recovery. And that her appointment also followed the Prime Minister's December 27th announcement of $2.5 billion in loans, loan guarantees, and credits to Ukraine, in addition to the $12 billion in Canadian financing already approved. And all of this is without any oversight. All of this goes without oversight. You know, we contribute, according to Anita Nan now, more per capita than any other country. That's a question. She was a cabinet minister. She's still outside the rules. She's supposed to have a cooling off period. She's now representing a foreign power. She has all our secrets, everything that you could ask for. We talked about this in shows prior.
Yeah. It's
And where does she go, though? I just want to say one thing. She goes right to, you're a Putin supporter, instead of answering the questions. You're a Putin supporter. Mark Miller, you're a racist. All these things, whenever they get called to account, they use these old cancel culture things. And some people try to use these here on our show here and say, we're taking money from Russia. I can guarantee you we're not getting any money from Russia, because we barely get any money for anybody. So there you go. So it's definitely not coming from Russia. No rubles have crossed the, come through the mail or through anywhere for us. So if you're going to use those,
not even stuffed in the sausage rolls, unfortunately.
Not even stuffed in the sausage roll. We did accept some sausage rolls from somebody from Dawson Creek, but there they are right there. And that's the proof there. We even documented to make sure that if anybody ever questions us, if we ever do a story on Dawson Creek, that person in Dawson Creek, and we favor them, there's the bribe right there. It's those.
But look how transparent we've been as well. Totally above board. We tell you when we're given sausage rolls right there. Unlike Chrystia Freeland, we're happy to talk about the sausage roll situation. But I've perked up a bit now, must say. But when I watched that the first time, and when I just watched that now when you played it, like, it's hard, you know. People say, like, how do you do this? Talk about all these depressing subjects, like, without being gloomy yourself. And it is hard. That one made me feel very low and very pessimistic about Canada's future, or Canada's present at least. Not just Canada, the whole Western system, frankly.
Globalism.
That we have this woman who has been empowered by the people of Canada, empowered to serve the people of Canada in a quite extraordinary way, like vast sums of money. Like you can't even imagine how much money has gone through her fingers that she's had power over. Money that belongs to all of us, you know, our money, this country's money, the people's money. And just to see the contempt that she has for democracy, for being scrutinized, for the media. This woman is a journalist. That's the only skill she has in her life. She's a journalist. And that's how she behaves when she's being asked questions. This is after 3 weeks or whatever, since the biggest scandal that has occurred in Canadian politics in at least, I would say, something like 10 years. It's been 3 weeks since we learned about it. Not refused to speak to the press, except apparently calling up CBC and trying to get anonymous source treatment in stories. It's horrific. You know, this is like seriously bleak stuff. This is seriously dark. It's not just for the tinfoil hat brigade kind of thing, like, oh, look at this, globalists and all. This is like seriously bad.
It was
and
on
it's
the website.
so diseased and poisonous and ugly. And I think just looking at that, read the Blacklock story. Look at that. Read about what she did when she was in the federal government, how much money she helped direct to Ukraine and all the rest of it. Just, it's terrible. And I'll quote Mark Carney, and I'll say, the system persists, not through violence alone, but through the participation of ordinary people in rituals they privately know to be false. What's that, if not exactly what our dear Mark Carney said at Davos the other day? And then she's saying, Ukraine's there fighting for our democracy. Ukraine fights for our democracy. What are we going to go through with these rituals? Are we going to continue to believe in these falsehoods?
It's again, we need to free the media. The media needs to be free. She doesn't survive if the media is free. If CBC doesn't exist and the other government-funded media that's been crippled, she doesn't survive. She doesn't make it. She makes it because
she didn't survive that.
Questioned.
She didn't survive Ezra Levant. Yeah, 20 seconds of Ezra Levant.
Thank you to Gospose. I don't know how you pronounce that. Gospose? Paul. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Montreal Expos logo on his account. Good lad. Or lass.
But this should be one of the biggest scandals in Canada. And Mark Carney, again, didn't fire her. Mark Carney didn't fire the MP that the RCMP had to fire. Remember, with the Chinese interference. Again, Chinese interference. Didn't fire that MP that was during the election. Gary still has his job. Melanie Jolie still has her job. And then still no questions on CBC about the decision we're going to get to in a bit here. We'll save it till we get there. But we got lots here, though. National Post, one of the few outlets that has a national audience. We had Jonathan Kay on here. It's one of our most watched videos. Jonathan Kay on here talking about the situation here in British Columbia. But on the Emergencies Act, Trudeau's gang simply didn't follow the law. And Ezra does get into that, I think, with her as well. Well, he did that with Trudeau because he got some words from Trudeau. Kudos to Ezra. Like, he's got 3 interviews there that nobody else got. He's completely,
certainly with Chrystia Freeland, he's so far ahead of his rivals. And the funny thing is, his rivals don't even consider him to be a rival. They consider him to just be like some sort of urchin.
Including the court.
He went to court. And yet he's done something that they couldn't do. It's the biggest story in Canada, I think.
He went to court because he fought the Online News Act because the government, the media, the Liberal government, said that he was not a news outlet when he applied for the funds that's available to the other outlets. He applied, he fought them, he even took it to court. He actually took them to court and he lost because they said he's not a journalist. He's got more stories than all of them.
But he's just got much better journalistic instincts, clearly. Yeah. Because he went and actually tried to pin Chrystia Freeland down, metaphorically, to ask her questions about this giga scandal, a gigantic mega scandal that has just like ripped through the heart of the Canadian government system, which has already been buried and forgotten about by his rivals, by Ezra Van's rivals. I can't believe that they would even dare call themselves his rivals. I know they don't, because they look down on him. They're not fit to lace his boots, because they don't do anything. They don't serve even the most basic purpose of a free press.
And just to be transparent, we also applied for the Online News Act thing when it came out. They took our audience. Which was we relied on heavily for traffic. We had an audience of 200,000 on Facebook and Instagram. They deleted it on us, and we lost half our traffic like overnight. And most outlets lost half our traffic overnight, and with that, half the revenue, because we were advertising from BC Lotteries, BC Dairy, and all that. We're advertising, and they said, well, once you get your audience back, we're back with you. But and then so we applied for the QJCO, the tax credit, and we were turned down. Ian wrote the letter, and then we appealed the decision, because we said, how aren't we considered a news outlet? And then how many stories did we do on that? And I think it took a year and a half for the appeal, and I think we got a decision in 2 years on the appeal. And they told us the next thing we had to do was go to court, and we're just like, that's ridiculous. So we actually went out then and got letters from MPs, a former MP, Stephen Fuhr even, a Liberal. And then we got letters from all the MLAs here. Well, the Conservatives wrote letters for us, all the MLAs. We got none from the NDP. We got none from the Greens, even though they said they were going to write one. And we got one from our mayor and council. And then just in the end of October, they finally sent a letter and said that we qualified for the QJCO, which is the Qualified Journalism Tax Credit. And they said we only qualified from that date forward, nothing going backwards, right? So Ezra went to court for the same thing. Ezra got turned down in court. We just reapplied again. So so they selectively decided, and obviously if you're, I guess, didn't lean very left, because there was outlets here in almost every outlet in Kelowna got it, other than us, and some of them weren't even real journalist outlets, and they didn't even have reporters, and they got it. And it just blew us away. We did so much work on this. Actually, we did more work on the Online News Act than probably all outlets across Canada combined. And we are of the firm belief that there should be no government funding whatsoever for any outlet. Give us back the audience we earned. We had a business model that worked, and it worked well for us. And again, big kudos to Rebel News there. They got some of the biggest stories, and to tell, and CBC went out in that time and said that they felt unsafe around those journalists, and that's how they got the second day of questioning stopped, because they didn't like the independent journalists asking questions. Who didn't like it? Who didn't like it?
What kind of an attitude is that, man? It's supposed to be the press and politics. It's supposed to be a very boisterous affair. It's supposed to be like, you've got to have thick skin, and you've got to be prepared to experience things that you maybe don't like, things that maybe they could even freak you out a bit. That's kind of supposed to be what journalism is. And if you're afraid of other journalists or they make you feel uncomfortable or whatever, you're in the wrong business. And really, you should have been weeded out like many, many years prior when you applied to be a journalist, because you obviously don't have the temperament for this job, for this profession. You have to be at, like, I can remember when I worked for in London, in England, when I worked for an international newspaper and a news site, and having to I had to watch people have their heads sawn off and things like that, ISIS videos. It's just, a lot of people might just think that's ridiculous. Like, loads of people have seen those videos, but it's like, that's just one indication. You have to be prepared to like sit through things that are absolutely repulsive, because that's what this job is. You're supposed to be a person that can just go anywhere, do anything, talk to anyone, and not like collapse into tears on the floor. And we're talking about people who were upset because they were next to Rebel News reporters. Like, that was enough to get them to like cry. It's just, I can't believe that these people ever were even attracted to journalism. Like, what do they think journalism is?
This is our moment. This is our moment for independent journalism. This is your moment. The power rests with the people. and you need to exercise your voice. And I knew that when Trump took the United States, that Canada would be like, they were going to try and hang on, the globalists were going to try and hang on to Canada with all their might, You see all this silencing of freedom of speech. You see all these, I do tons of interviews with John Carpay from the Justice Center of Constitutional Freedoms. Everything they talk about, getting rid of vax, getting rid of all this freedom of speech, they're going to try and hang on to Canada as hard as they can, right? So this is your chance. You need to fight back on this. You need to help us get a bigger voice, help Rebel News, help Juno News, help all these outlets, and then call for the defunding of the CBC. That money could be spent on people, jobs, whatever. That $1.5 billion needs to be spent somewhere else. And it's surely not on CBC feeding garbage and narrative. And again, thank you to No to
Number
Carbon
2,
Grift.
Carbon Grift.
There you go. If you could just put your name at the end of it, that'd help us. If you just even put your first name, that would be great. Again, we allow comments, and we appreciate the comments. We appreciate everything. And we're fighting hard as well to do what we can here. And again, this is Keith Wilson, another lawyer here. 5 days have passed and no government paid legacy media asking hard questions. It's true. It's absolutely embarrassing that the CBC, nobody's asked the question. This is supposed to be Canada's watchdog. That's what CBC's was. It used to be its role. It sure isn't anymore, right? But if you want to see, we talked about this a lot. You want to see really bad, no Iranian coverage, and they were actually protesting. We showed you that a few days ago. They were actually protesting outside of the CBC offices in Toronto there. And they didn't do a story on the Iranian protests for some strange reason. And then David Cochrane actually had somebody on from the regime, and he didn't push back against them. And so tons of Iranians wrote a letter, and they actually got on the show here and listened to Cochrane explain how he apologizes, but doesn't really apologize. But listen in to Cochrane here.
And look, Arslan, you are one of hundreds of Iranian Canadians that we've heard from and that I've personally heard from with concerns over an interview we did on the show last week with the Iranian Canadian Congress. And you criticized that interview for falling short of standards and really allowing a platform for the narrative of the Iranian regime. And look, I'm not going to argue with you. Like, I expected an interview on that day, much like the one we are having here, talking about the regime cruelty and support for the protesters, and that's not what we delivered. And we fell short as a team, and I'm sorry about that. And I fell short as a host, because I'm ultimately responsible for what happened. So this was it was a live interview, and it did not go as I expected, and I didn't react it as I would have hoped I would. So I do want to apologize to you for that. Because I know this is a source of great consternation and some hurt, and that was not our intention. And
that was a nice little therapy session, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now tell me about your feelings. How are you feeling about this? Like, shut up, man. Shut up.
They still don't do stories on it. Like, I mean, it's absolutely atrocious what the CBC is doing. And now they're trying to backpedal on this and say, well, you know, they let that guy spew that it says it was Israel fueling these protests, that it was agitators. And CBC was just good enough to just, they could watch the videos. We all saw the videos. But tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in the street, that was fueled by the Israelis.
Well, it's also
with a shred of common sense. With a shred of common sense, could have saw through that and could have said, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah. But he's like apologizing for giving a platform to somebody from the Iranian, for the Iranian regime or whatever. Like, yeah, okay. Well, it is a government of a country. It's the protagonist in this story. Yeah. What do they have to say? Why would that make you tearful? And why would that prompt a therapy session where you say, "I'm so sorry that I interviewed somebody that had a different point of view, that was on the side that you despised"? Like, again, that's journalism.
He should have asked questions though, instead of just letting the guy spew, right?
Well, I mean, you can't you can take a host of water and all that, but the fact that he's now gone and apologizing just for the fact that these people were platformed, like, come on, platformed. That verb needs to be binned immediately.
And then this is just for a point here on our military. You know, when Mark Carney's speech there too, you know, the middle power, and you said that yesterday. How do you be a middle power if you don't even have a military? And this is somebody put this out. Lithuania could have more troops than in the field, in 24 hours than Britain, France, and Germany can. And also, Canada's army is smaller than the Alabama National Guard.
Yeah. I mean, I would. Do you think Canada could win a war against Alabama? Serious question. I don't think it could. I don't think it could win a war against Montana. It's kind of like you've got to process this information. Like, that is how feeble Canada actually is, and we're being told that Canada's a middle power. Economically, sure, and in terms of soft power, which Mark Carney, I don't know, kind of said doesn't really exist anyway, and all these international institutions are bollocks anyway. So don't know what that's really worth. But economically and in terms of our natural resources, okay, maybe you could say that we're a middle power. But what's the point of being an economic middle power if Lithuania could sail over the ocean and steal all your stuff in 2 weeks? You can't realistically say that you're a middle power then.
We're going to kind of rip through some stuff because we got a lot to get through still, and we're not going to play the clip. Doug Ford, and I'll just tell you, Doug Ford says he stands with law-abiding gun owners, so he's gone full no Carney now. He said, nope, no gun buyback here. So who's not in on the gun buyback now? That's Manitoba, Alberta, Ontario, I believe the territories. Who's in on the gun buyback now? Quebec is definitely in. Quebec is 100%.
Well, because it should have been a Quebec. It should have been a Quebec law because it's all about Quebec.
Yeah.
I mean, it was done in reaction. It was done in response to the Gabriel Wortman or whatever that freak's name was, who killed people in Nova Scotia. It was done in reaction to what he did, and he did what he did with guns held illegally. And the laws already prohibited him from having those guns. I know that's a whole hot potato, isn't it? But like the madness of this. Legislation in this country sometimes.
And it's only $750 million. Could we spend that $750 million better? We spent $50 million already, and we have recovered 16 guns from 12 people. That's pretty good. Gary, do we have the new feature, Fool of the Day yet? Do we have that? Whoa, you promised today that we were going to have Fool of the Day. So, and obviously...
Rommel's the Fool of the Day today.
Let's listen in on Gary compete for Fool of the Day here.
We have expressed that we will be appointing an expert panel to review the SKS. As you're aware, SKS have a range of capabilities, with older versions with very limited capabilities, and the more modern versions having much more assault stuff.
That's good enough. He's in charge of a $750 million program that has collected 16 guns so far from 12 people, spent $50 million doing that, has a leaked phone call from his tenant that he said that he didn't even believe in the program and that he would make that guy whole. And he still has a cabinet position. No accountability, no transparency. Thank you, John, for the...
Thank you, John Gotti. I always liked the Gambino crime family. Finally, recognition.
We're going to try and get through some, but we're supposed to have a new feature, Fool of the Day, because Gary obviously wins Fool of the Day whenever he shows up.
It's too easy. Yeah, too easy for him.
We talked about this yesterday. This is the lady from the housing advocate, Mary Jose Jolie. She spent 2 weeks holidaying in Egypt after she took almost $14,000 to do a business class junket to Cairo. So she stayed over there and kind of like enriched her vacation on the taxpayer dollar there. And expense claims show that Cairo was the most expensive trip, total about $75,000 in travel. Who will build for her first 2 years on the job, and self-described watchdog of housing and homelessness. Her hotel billings range from $222 per night at the Delta in Winnipeg to $233 at the Hotel Grand Pacific, $373 at Vancouver's Blue Horizon, and $392 at Montreal's Hotel Le Germain. And that followed Cabinet's pledge to refocus spending cuts. And remember, the Speaker of the House makes her look, her things are paltry. What did he spend? $273,000 in a year? Trips to Jamaica, Barbados, I can't remember.
Kenya, I believe he just gone on safari.
And then there was that other lady that I think had the job for like a week or something. I can't remember these stories, but you got to go back
Oh
and
yeah,
watch
that
it.
was amazing. That one.
And
That
then
was over 100 grand, wasn't it?
100 grand or something. Like she's like a drunken sailor. That's what I mean. There's no accountability, and they want less accountability. Like, sorry, you got to go back and watch yesterday's show where we shared where the MPs want the ability, or cabinet ministers want the ability not to be held to law. Like they want to be able to escape law and also be able to dole that out to corporations to say that, you know, you can't be charged. It's crazy.
And bear in mind as well, she was in Blacklocks yesterday, wasn't she? We talked about her yesterday.
Yeah.
This woman, she earns 213, was it 215? About $215,000 a year.
Yeah.
And this scandal here concerns a $13,684 business class junket to Cairo. She earns that, even probably after tax. She earns that much money every month from us. We give her that much money to do nothing for this sinecure. But that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough that we gave her that much money every month to live, you know, something like 4 times the standard of living, if you know, determined by income, than the average Canadian. But that wasn't enough. She also had to bill for that. It's just.
Let's also not forget in December it was bonus time. 90 to 100% of all the bureaucrats in Ottawa get bonuses, and some of those bonuses are high as $86,000. That's what the Canada Infrastructure Bank got. And then one person fought the bonus, and they were making like $273,000. These are all numbers from memory. $273,000 working for CRA, because she wasn't coming to work. They didn't give her a bonus. Then she fought it, and she got her bonus. There was a Canada Post person that wasn't showing up for work or wasn't delivering the mail for months, and got his job back.
This is transparently just patronage for people who are associated with the powerful. You know, these are just like. Again, I say this so often, I bore myself, but you see this throughout history, but like hangers-on who attach themselves to like the power base, and they just get money for nothing, which is basically what this woman does.
Accountability.
Pretty much nothing.
How many stories do we read to you guys? How many stories do we read where they say they don't want it, it's confidential, they don't want to release the information, they don't want to do this, and here's changes in the problem ridings, and we've seen in the Elections Canada with the mistakes, and they still have that one riding there with that one vote, and the Elections Canada messed up on, and it hasn't gone to court yet because you know the Bloc is fighting it. But Chief Electoral Officer Stephen Perreault is appointing new returning officers to 3 federal ridings that reported 2025 election irregularities. And the revision of the list of returning officers are in anticipation of another general campaign as early as 2026. Like, how do we have people that are, you know, like questionable even running this? Why isn't there more checks and balances in place when, you know, you have these irregularities, right? That we shouldn't be having where we're worried about the election integrity because they make side one way. We see all the problems in the United States with the election stuff, right? You know, this is the one, a ballot box got lost. How can that possibly happen? That's a good question, right? In the case of Coquitlam, we have a situation here where confusion about the process. We had a team there that worked provincially and was confused with different rules. If you're the returning officer, I've been a returning officer many times for small elections. It's a basic set of rules. You read the rules, you understand the rules. You have to sign a piece of paper that says you understand the rules. There should be no confusion on the rules. It's part of the job. You sign a piece of paper that says I understand the rules of a being returning officer.
Yeah,
seems pretty. Layoff notices sent out to thousands of Canadian government employees, and this is being reported by Blog TO there. So about 1,775 workforce adjustment notices were issued to members last week. 730 for public services and procurement, 530 for shared services, 350 for StatsCan because they don't want to report stats. That's probably where they should put more. And then 125 to the Treasury Board. And they're already protesting, right? Like PSAC's already out there working it, right? So
somebody on the radio was talking about, you know, like the psychological impact, and it was very, very
dire,
very serious conversation about like how dire these people would be feeling and like their mental health and all the rest of it, which is fair enough. I sympathize with that. I understand that, but I don't remember those kind of conversations going on for I don't know, oil rig people in Alberta who are laid off all the time as the market contracts and expands.
They deserved it. And that's the thing, like this next one, the conversations that you weren't even allowed to have before. Like I said, globalism is dead. It's almost like you talk about global in chorus. It's the Walking Dead, and they just don't realize that they're dead yet. And globalism is dead, and so is climate extremism. And you wouldn't be allowed to even air this. But here's the Honeywell CEO explaining how solar power and wind can't even produce cement or steel. Let's listen to this.
About the energy solutions available for these unbelievably energy-hungry data centers, your list was short. Your list had one thing on it, if I listened correctly. You said gas. You didn't say gas and renewables. Can you educate us why not?
I mean, what one has to appreciate is the intensity of energy. You know, I always like to, I'm an engineer by background, so always like to tell people the mix of energy doesn't matter. How much is wind, how much is solar. We like to advertise that. Kilojoules matter because energy intensity has to shift, not the mix. So solar power cannot produce cement. Solar power cannot produce steel.
It cannot.
They are very energy intensive.
That's right.
You still need a gas-based heating.
The idea. You get the idea.
It can't do a lot of things. Like we said a number of times, it couldn't keep roughly 50% of the population on this planet alive, which relies on diesel. It relies on fossil fuels. And it isn't just about reliability. It's about the power that they can provide, the intensity, as this guy said. You know, all this talk about Václav Havel. Read the other Václav, the other important Václav in the history of the world, which is Václav Smil, who's a professor in, I think it's Winnipeg or something like that. So somewhere in the prairies. He'll teach you everything you need to know about energy and how it works and the absurdities of a lot of the green extremists who don't even seem to know this kind of thing. They don't even, they give me the impression that they don't even know that you can't make steel with renewables.
Climate extremism is also dead, and we've had 10 years and now going on 11 years of energy suppression policies here in Canada. They haven't been removed yet. And Carney's about to drop the CCUS on Canada as well. Again, skinning the cat, industrial carbon tax, still all those things that make us less competitive in the world. Energy is everything. You can go watch the interview I did with, or the show I did with Renee Merrifield yesterday. Energy is everything. Cheap, reliable energy is prosperity. And that's what it's all about. And it's enough of just saying things. And like Ian says, saying things doesn't make them true. And here's even...
But also, like, just to go back to steel again, Britain, we've talked about Britain a couple of times. Well, many times, as a sort of country not to imitate. Just look at Britain. It basically does not have a domestic steel industry anymore. Lots of people have asked this question, but we have to ask it again. It's a very important rhetorical question. Do you have a country? Are you a sovereign, independent country of any significance or consequence, whatever? Never mind middle power. Are you even a little power if you don't have a steel industry? If you can't build, like, make your own steel? You know what I mean? It's like, it's beyond just like a culture war thing. This is about survival. This is about, do you want to live? Do you want to be a part of this world? You know, as Cormac McCarthy wrote, do you want to be alive and present in here? Because if you do, you're going to need fossil fuels, because you're going to need things like steel.
Your voice matters, and start raising it, because, you know, like a lot of people have been shamed into silence with climate extremism and a whole bunch of other things. Your voice matters. Chancellor, here's the Germans even have figured it out that they caused their own self-sabotage. We'll play just a couple seconds of Merz here recognizing that maybe it is themselves. And maybe when Canada figures out, our leadership here figures out, they need to get out of the way.
Are aware of those problems. Both Germany and Europe have wasted incredible potential for growth in recent years by dragging feet on reforms and unnecessarily and excessively curtailing entrepreneurial freedoms and personal responsibility. We are going to change that now. Security and predictability take precedence over excessive regulation and misplaced perfection.
You get the idea.
But again, it's like a mea culpa from a member of an elite that has failed so badly, so dramatically. And I hate to say it, but like during the Merkel chancellorship, I was there as a young journalist with no real connections, just a random dude, and I could see myself how stupid all of that was. And I would speak to people, just random people, like my friends and stuff, like my dad, and I'd just be like, "That's really stupid, isn't it?" And then they'd be like, "Yeah, that's really stupid." How on earth did this happen? How is it possible that random people that don't know anything, don't have any sort of special insight into how the world works, they could see how dumb this was, but the elite of countries like Germany could not see it? And now all of a sudden it's like, they have figured it out. We couldn't have possibly guessed. It's like, it's just the failure is, it's almost impossible to process a failure of that magnitude by highly educated people at the top of their social pyramids.
And here's the next chart. And remember this one well. The heartbeat of Canada is next door. Alberta and Saskatchewan, the two heartbeats. That's where the resources lie. That's where our wealth lies. Unleash the beast. And I think I wrote a piece on LinkedIn. If you're interested in some of the stuff I write, you can go to LinkedIn, and I write a lot there. Unleash the beast was one of them. And this was, I wrote a long time ago, like, why won't we unleash the beast? We have the beast here. Why won't we unleash it? It just blows me away.
Well, that's when you start having to think, people wonder why there are so many conspiracy theories out there. Again, like we said the other day, that's been created by these people because they do things that are so stupid. It's impossible to understand why they're doing it unless you invent some clever reason. Then it's a secret, and actually they are smart. They're not as stupid as they seem. They actually are just pursuing this different objective. You can see why conspiracy theories flourish because it makes no sense why, just as one example among many, why Canada wouldn't have unleashed the beast many years ago.
Yes, Shelley, BC was a beast as well. But it used to be Alberta and BC, the 1-2 punch. But BC has shot itself in the foot, the leg, the arm. Like, we have definitely crippled BC. There's a long road back for British Columbia, and it doesn't start changing until we have a change. I won't say the change of government, but a change of mindset here in British Columbia, because it is definitely doesn't put British Columbians first. Here's one here. Enormous surge in temporary foreign workers brought benefits and costs to Canada's economy. And that's according to an academic. Ian and I talk about this one all. I don't know if we have this because it was put in late. Or scrambling. Oh, it's okay. But there's a nearly 20-fold increase in temporary foreign workers over the last 2 decades. From 66,000 in 2000 to 1.27 million in 2023. Who's the benefitors of that? Tim Hortons, A&W, and Conestoga College, where the guy there, like 86% of the students there were foreign students there, and who pays? You pay with less access to healthcare. You pay for higher rents. You pay for inflation. You pay, because Tim Hortons didn't want to pay a fair wage, because A&W didn't want to pay a fair wage. You pay. So you want to let them know what you think? Stop buying coffee from Tim's and stop buying the burger from A&W. Let them know what you think. And everybody knows all these, this is going viral. This is going crazy all over the internet. A taxpayer land acknowledgement at City Hall. And the City Hall had to sit there and take it. Here's the land acknowledgement for you. Let's listen in on this, because we always got to have a little bit of humor.
My deputation in a good way by acknowledging the people who fund this municipal enterprise, the Toronto taxpayer. Let's reflect and remember that every word spoken in this chamber, every light bulb, and every salary paid, including those of city councillors, is funded almost entirely by the hard work and earnings of taxpayers and property owners. Nearly all of the city's $18.9 billion budget comes directly from them. We acknowledge that while taxpayers and property owners have endured an almost 20% increase in the last 3 years, only a small and insulated group decides how much of their income is expropriated to sustain a burgeoning municipal bureaucracy that continues to grow regardless of outcomes and results. We pay respect to those taxpayers because without them, this institution could not indulge in ideological excesses like renaming streets and public squares, painting roads with inferior and environmentally damaging red paint, nor fund harm reduction programs that result in a steady stream of drug paraphernalia littering our streets, sidewalks, parks, and playgrounds. In this spirit of acknowledgement and with an eye to the future, we recognize the Toronto taxpayer and revere their tolerance for being taxed.
There's one I play.
Good delivery. Because you can imagine the stares that he was getting. And well, you can see a couple of the stares from the councillors.
They're angry.
Trying to put him off.
Elon Musk even showed up at the WEF there to talk about robots. Jensen Huang was there. Lots of other tech leaders were there as well. Let's listen to what Elon had to say.
Well, humanoid robotics will advance very quickly. I think we do have some of the Tesla Optimus robots doing simple tasks in the factory. We expect probably later this year. By the end of this year, I think they'll be doing more complex tasks, but still deployed in an industrial environment. And probably sometime next year, I'd say that by the end of next year, I think would be selling humanoid robots to the public. That's when we are confident that it's very high reliability, very high safety, and the range of functionality is also very high. You can basically ask it to do anything you'd like.
There you go.
Not known for getting his timelines right, but the fact that he's saying that implies that it's pretty far along, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, I drive one of those cars, and I don't drive it. It drives me, and it really, I mean, to people that don't know, Tesla right now, when you get in, you put your seatbelt on. You can either use Grok or you can use the button, and you can say where you want to go. You can talk into it or whatever. But I just press home, and then I press start self-drive, and it leaves the parking lot and drives me home all the way. Does everything. I don't touch the wheel again. So there's already robots working. And it stopped for a raccoon at 3 o'clock in the morning that I probably would have ended the poor raccoon's life, but it stopped for the raccoon. It swerves around even manhole covers. It goes through traffic, like through construction. It's remarkable. It pulls over for fire trucks. It does everything. And I've been using it for, I don't know, it's got to be going on a year and a half now. I don't even know, but quite a while.
Claudio is saying it's an ugly Tesla. I think any criticism you're going to have of Tesla, you can't call it ugly, can you? I think they're very handsome vehicles, in my opinion. That's
people's opinion for sure. I mean, it's very vanilla for sure. Like, I mean, Teslas are very vanilla.
I really like the look of them. Like, they're nice and low. They look very aerodynamic. Like, they're very cool and distinctive.
Very vanilla. Like, I mean, it's tough to say that you. I mean, I used to be a bow tie guy and used to drive like nice cars, like Corvettes and stuff like that when I was younger. But it's and I resisted the Tesla forever. But like, it's a different thing. It's like, they're the same, but they're very minimalist. They're very yeah.
Someone's just asked, does it pull over for the cops by itself? That's an interesting question that I've never thought. It does, right?
Pulls over for, I said that, pulls over for fire trucks, ambulances. It has audio. So
no, I mean, like, if a cop's on giving you the blue and reds, chasing you down the street, it knows to pull over, right?
Yeah. Pulls over.
Wow.
You can't give the ticket to it, though. You know what I mean? Just like,
can you put it into criminal mode and say, obey the police?
You can actually put it into Mad Max mode, and it will break the speed limit, which is, there you go. We got some BC news for you here, some quick stuff, and then we got some really good international stuff. So stick with us here. We're almost done.
Coming to you live from the Now Media News.
David Eby says he watched Mark Carney's speech. He loved it, and then we're not going to play the clip here because he always looks so sad, doesn't he? He's got so many pots.
He does, and he looks really knackered. He's like a broken man.
They got so many pots boiling over on the stovetop, but he always has one straw man, and that straw man happens to be, any guesses, anybody? DJT. There's only one straw man for David Eby. Everybody, but he's blamed everybody. To be fair, Diane. Danielle Smith, you know, Doug Ford, I don't know, whoever he wants to blame.
Carney, Doug Ford, Quebec, federal government, any sort of private company ever. Obviously the BC Conservatives, John Rustad, BC Liberals from however many years ago, the courts, the justice system. He in this thing here, he was going on about a cop. He was blaming a cop for not taking extortion in Surrey seriously. He will literally just blame anybody. He has no kind of ethical block that prevents him. Like his faith in democracy and institutions doesn't stop him. He will literally blame anybody. The king, maybe that's next.
It reminds me of that Mad magazine that used to be What Me Worry, and it's just like, what? No, I blame you. What? Not me. I blame you.
It's always someone else's fault.
And this other one, he said BC will play a key role in the New World Order sketched out by Carney at Davos there. And that's in regards to China. Again, they're playing the China card. David Eby said BC will play a key role in the New World Order. I don't know what this New World Order is. I think the New World Order, the globalist New World Order, is shattered. Like, it's shattered. Like, I don't know who Mark Carney is putting together in this New World Order. Is it China, Qatar, and Canada? Is that the New World Order?
Middle powers. That's what he said.
Because the Europeans aren't going to be joining either. So I'm not sure who this New World Order is.
But also the Europeans collectively, as the European Union, don't consider themselves a middle power, obviously. They consider themselves a superpower. They think that they can go shoulder to shoulder with the Chinese and the Americans. So I don't know what Canada thinks. Canada's going to bob along and it's like, hey, us middle powers. Like, I don't think that's going to work out.
Well, international news. We got a bit here for you. So there's good stuff in here.
Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
Donald J. Trump says he got a deal in Greenland. That's good enough. I mean, if you haven't read The Art of the Deal, you should go read The Art of the Deal, and then maybe you'll get an understanding, because a lot of the stuff that he does is just right there in the book. The playbook is there. And if you're a reporter, it should be like required reading. You should read that, because this is the guy controlling the free world right now. So you should read The Art of the Deal.
But the thing is, it isn't just The Art of the Deal every time, is it? Because sometimes he does things like kidnap Nicolas Maduro in this like amazing, unexpected operation. And that's the context in which you have to look at the reaction to his Greenland, like Greenland 2.0, claiming possession of it. Because people didn't know. There were a lot of people like, is this just out of the deal? Like, he did just kidnap Maduro. And that, obviously, that plays to his advantage, doesn't it? Because people don't know if he's for real.
I'll play a little clip here from it. We won't play long of it, though.
To pay anything. We're going to have total access to Greenland. We're going to have all military access that we want. We're going to be able to put what we need on Greenland because we want it. We're talking about national security and international security. So we're going to not have to pay anything other than the fact that we are building the Golden Dome.
I mean, this goes on. You get the idea because you've heard the speech many times, right? The Golden Dome. We don't have to pay anything.
It's going to be the great. Some are saying it's going to be the greatest Golden Dome they've ever seen. He's starting to sound like Zelensky, isn't he? I don't know if he's starting to smoke cigarettes or something, but he's like, it's going to be the greatest. It's going to be perfect.
Here's the Finnish president, though, with the worst double take ever. Let's listen to this. This is hilarious.
It's a direct answer to the question of this panel: can Europe defend itself? My answer is unequivocally yes.
Without the Americans.
Without the Americans, I mean,
how?
Well, look.
But you're relying on them for these key elements. You've said earlier that Europe can defend itself without the Americans. If it comes down...
not exact. That's not a quote.
More or less. More or less.
We'll
go back to the transcript.
Let's stick to the left on this one. Yeah.
More or less.
That's good.
More or less.
I love journalists.
Stoop. With Ruther sitting there, he changed his mind.
But just highlights once again the flimsiness of the claims that they make. It's just ridiculous. I have to respond to somebody saying, call me out for using the word kidnap about Nicolas Maduro. I didn't use that. That wasn't like that wasn't loaded language or anything like that. I mean, I'm happy to say capture. If that's a better verb. Kidnap is a bit of a loaded term.
I would use the word successful military operation.
Well, or legal law enforcement operation. That's how they're trying to sell it. I mean, either way, I think capture's that's the neutral verb, isn't it? So I'll leave it at capture.
Yeah, we're definitely not leaning into the left lunacy here. And then this is another one that, you know, you can say whatever you want about Trump, but the guy, I don't know. Like, I don't sleep. Like, I'm up at 2:30 every morning, and I have been for most of my life. Like, that's kind of my MO. You know, I go to bed around 9:39 or whatever. But I always thought I was pretty good on no sleep, but I don't think Trump sleeps like a wink. And, you know, that's even from some of the reporters that travel on Air Force One. They say there's no sleeping when you go on a trip overseas with him, because he'll call a press conference like in the middle of the night. Again, contrast that to Mark Carney, who takes press on his plane. How many press conferences have you seen from Mark Carney on whatever they call the Canadian jet? I don't know. Is there a name for it? I don't know. But how many conferences?
It's all just behind the scenes, like
sausage rolls,
isn't it?
It's sausage rolls.
And lobbying.
Sausage rolls.
It's
right?
sausage rolls. Yeah, that's what it is.
What do they call the Canadian? So on Carney's plane, or the government plane, I can't remember the name of it now. Maybe somebody will tell us in the comments. But on that plane, there's never a press conference. There's never anything live. All there is we can guess, is sausage rolls, because they did take sausage rolls on the plane. We know sausage rolls made it on the plane because when he was in BC, he picked out the sausage rolls for the reporters that travel on the plane. I remember when they were really mad, the reporters were really mad when he went to Gaza there, or to Egypt there, to sign that, he wanted to be part of that. He didn't get the sign. He wanted to be part of that ceremony there for when Trump signed the Gaza peace deal, and he couldn't get the Canadian jet to go, so he had to go on his own. Con Air, there you go. Con Air. But how many press conferences have you seen live from the plane? How many have you seen where there's a gaggle on the plane? Because they travel the same distance. Trump goes from there to there. Carney goes from there to there. How many? None. Zero. None. Nada. How many independent media get on the plane? Because there's a pool in the U.S. that different reporters get to go. They get selected out of a pool. How many reporters are in the White House briefing room every day? 200, 300? How many? And it even allows media from out of the country. Like, you know, there'll be somebody there from Rwanda one day. You know what I mean? Like, it'll be just take questions from everybody. And then you tell me.
And certainly his enemies, like CNN, she's always there, isn't she?
Caitlin Collins, front row. And none, absolutely zero. And then Trudeau ran on, Carney ran on, transparency and accountability. Zero. We can't even get emails answered. Zero. Even the British Prime Minister does interviews on trains and things like that, because obviously England being so small, I guess they don't fly as often. But he'll be on a train and they still do interviews on the train. Like, I don't know if Canadians are aware, like, not only is Canada extremely weird in that, like, news is banned on Facebook. I mean, it's basically only Canada of the free countries, democracies in the world. But Canada is such an outlier when it comes to press access. It's or just the whole press culture. It's so closed off. It's really, really abnormal. And don't let the screamers talk you down and say, you know, they have this language that they can use and they go after you, right? Like, you know, it's just that's enough. You know what I mean? Just from these people. You've had the wheel for 10 years, 11 years. You've had the wheel. Look where we are. Look around. This is your doing. And take responsibility for it. GB News. Imagine if we had a GB News here. Let's go with GB News, her thinking on Trump.
Oh, Martin, I wish I'd been in the studio then to talk to Lord Hannon, because my blood was boiling. He said he is a threat to the global order. Yeah, he is. And that's why people love him. Because if you've been an MEP for years, as Lord Hannon was, and then you walk into the House of Lords, guess what you don't like? You don't like anyone who is a threat to the global order, because you've done very well out of the global order. But you know what? In this country, in America, and at home in the UK, there are millions of people who feel that they haven't been served well by the current global world order. A lot of the people who've been responsible for those policies are in that room at Davos. They are wealthy beyond the wildest dreams of most people. And I don't know whether Lord Hannan is a man of considerable means. I suspect he probably is. But most people watching the TV will be saying, what about me? And that's the people that Trump is speaking to. That's why he got elected on a huge majority here. That's what democracy looks like, Lord Hannan. I'm really sorry if you don't like it, but there is something about the way Trump talks to people, the way he connects, the way he talks about his ambition to make their lives better, to make them feel richer and healthier and give them opportunity. That's what Trump is communicating.
I like her accent. It looks like she's like definitely raised in your same hometown there.
Oh, well, that's Yorkshire, I believe. We're not quite the same. Yorkshire, like the way she's. That's an indication that she's a Yorkshireite. Let's Google it just to make sure that she's not somehow not from Yorkshire. Oh no, I was wrong. She's actually on the other side of the Pennines, so Lancashire. But she sounds like a Yorkshireite. Anyway, northern. Put it that way.
Yeah, no. I said that when Trump spoke, he speaks to the people, and it's in a grade 6 language. Carney speaks. He speaks at an intellectual level, and he speaks to the elites. That's the difference. That's absolutely the difference. And the elites don't like it. The elites don't like it.
Well, clearly, and is there a place in the Western world where elites, so-called, are more comfortable than Canada? You know, more cozy. The only time they ever get asked awkward questions is when Ezra Levant buys himself a plane ticket to Switzerland, where they don't have the RCMP protection detail to come and knock people down that ask questions.
Yeah, I love her accent too. That accent was that. Yeah, she's got a great accent. The Board of Peace, they signed the charter today. So the Board of Peace, again, this is they're starting that up because they're laying out this Gaza thing. We got a little clip here from Marco Rubio. Got to remember that Marco Rubio is the counterpart to Anita Anand here in Canada. Let's let Marco speak first.
It's an honor to serve as the Secretary of State during a historic presidency. And it's a historic presidency because the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, is someone who is not limited by what others say is possible or what others say is impossible. He's not limited by some of the things that have happened in the past, and he's willing to talk to or engage with anyone in the interest of peace, always putting the American people and our national security first, but understanding that in the world that we share with so many others, peace is paramount to all of us. We are here today because of President Trump's vision. If we go back just a few months ago, people thought what was happening in Gaza was impossible to solve. 28 hostages that were dead, others that were still living, all these hostages that were being held. No one thought that would ever come to a resolution without more fighting.
We got a few things to get through, and I'm going to try and do this real quick here. Sorry. We also had Jared Kushner unveil the master plan. I think you can go find this one and actually play it, because that master plan they laid out there, and they got all these people that are joining this Board of Peace have to cough up $1 billion. And Trump has laid out quite a few people, Argentina, and even Russia said it would join. And this Board of Peace, and then some of the master plan, like we'll play a little clip of it here. Yeah, so we're going to have to go quick here. Ian's almost out of juice too. But we won't play it because we're going to get past it here. And then Citadel CEO, a big fund manager, also said the policies of the past few years have been bad for the American economy. And we won't play that clip, but it was good. You got to go, you can find that clip yourself and play it. And your friend Nigel Farage there says he put Davos on notice when he wins the leadership in the UK. He's done with Davos, like Pierre Poilievre said too. It's over for the elites. And we're seeing that from many countries that are saying they're done with Davos. And like I said, globalism is all but dead. And Zelensky, we'll play this clip because it's a quick one here from the guy that's got our money here, President Zelensky here. Listen to what he has to say about the EU.
As for Iran, everyone is waiting
to see what America will do. And the world offers nothing, Europe offers nothing, and doesn't not want to enter this issue as a supporter of.
That's good. Again, the key point there is America has the hammer. I mean, there's no doubt about it, Mr. Carney. America has the hammer. The EU is not going to do it. They didn't even acknowledge it. What did Ursula von der Leyen say? They're going to, consider some proposals for the Iranians. Everybody's expecting Trump to do something. Everybody, I mean, what's going on in Venezuela? They're expecting Trump to do something.
Yeah, because they're
not
been that way
waiting
for 80 years, hasn't it?
They're not waiting for the middle powers to have meetings and then figure out how they can fleece things. They're not
The
waiting.
middle power working group going to figure it out.
And then journalism is dead, and this is another one here. For every media outlet in the Western world freaked out about the looming war. Yeah, so CBC and the rest of CBC, oh my God, they were like the fear-mongering machine. We did some of the articles here where they were actually talking about how we need to arm people and all kinds of ridiculous things. And then, this is the bucket of cold water. So like, the Trump administration been selling weapons to Denmark in the last 10 weeks, but it's stuff that was easy to find. Again, another one from Maria Machado there saying she's full confidence Trump will liberate all of Latin America from communism. And I know there's in Polymarkets you're going to find that they say that Cuba gets liberated this year. That's what Polymarkets are saying, and Polymarkets are pretty good. Again, the U.S. economy, like it's just on fire. It's literally on fire. 5.3 annualized growth in Q4 2025. Wild, absolutely wild, right? And then our friend Javier Milei there, he lit the room up as well there at WEF. Nobody wanted to listen to him. There was no applause for him, I doubt. The rebirth of ideas for liberty. America will be the beacon of light to illuminate the West. Oh, but CBC, would they interview Javier and let him say that on CBC?
No, I don't think so.
The same thing came from David Sachs, saying that the American economy is on fire. We won't play that. In Japan, she looks like she's calling an election because she wants a supermajority. She wants to make changes in Japan because I think she's on a minority government right now. So she wants
very popular as well.
Very, very popular, especially with the young people, right? And then, so the Board of Peace is good, and that's it. That's it. That's a wrap. We're 2 minutes over our two-hour thing, and
yeah, and I'm about I might disappear any second.
Yeah, any second, but. I'm about to fill my truck with $2 gallon gas in West Virginia. Well, you go, JC, because, we're jealous, JC, and it should be like this here, too. But we appreciate everybody that we had a record live on today, so that's great. This is obviously getting out to a bigger audience. And if you like what we do, yes, and we love the sausage wraps, if you like what we do, we're working on a website so you can buy some materials as well, where you can buy some sausage T-shirts, hats, and stuff like that, too. And a free and independent media is what Canada needs. We need to be able to ask questions. Power serves us. They're servants of the people, and they need to be able to answer questions. That's what we should demand. And your vote matters. And then when they take your vote, and when they, like Michael Maw decides for 27,000 people that your vote doesn't matter, and the Carney Liberals also go along with that, that is not democracy. Those are threats to democracy. And also the Online News Act, a threat to democracy. All these things are threats to democracy. Every time they silence, every time they try to censor, those are threats to democracy. Anyway, we're back tomorrow at 9 a.m. with a really big show. And I imagine tomorrow will be even really bigger. And we're going to get our sausage graphic going. We're going to get Fool of the Day going, too, because we want to have a little bit of fun. Because, you know what, it can't be all bad news. We've got to have a little bit of fun. It's a wrap. It's a sausage wrap. There you go. And that's the sausages for today. And that's how the sausage bounced. There you go. So there's the sausage right there. Boom. They were really good sausages, too. I don't know if they were all the way from Dawson Creek or they bought them locally, but big kudos to the person that dropped some sausages off as well. Thank you. And thank you for watching Now Media.